Aloha and good day. This is Clint Hansen with Maui Real Estate Radio. You're listening to us on the KAOI radio group, broadcasting 7 a.m. Monday morning. But you can hear this wherever you get your podcast. And please, if you ever have any input, feel free to put that into the comments below. Of course, I'm always joined by my co-host, Byron Yap of American Savings Bank. Please say hello.
Good morning. Hello.
And today we have special guest, Hawaii Community Foundation Executive Officer Micah. And, we're always asking the question, with the tragedy that just recently happened, what is Lahaina Strong? We want to know more about the community outreach program that you guys have had because it seems to be generating a lot of positive impact and funds for donations. So we want to have people feel secure. So if you could tell us a little bit about what you do, the underlying 501c3 and how it's working towards Lahaina Strong.
Well, first off, Clint and Byron, thank you for the opportunity to be on your show and get the word out. And just want to thank you folks as residents of Maui for the support you're giving the Maui community. It's really helpful to have a voice out there that you're providing. Maybe just backing up a little bit. Hawaii Community Foundation has been around since 1916. And we've been here for 100 years and we'll be here for 100 years going forward. Community foundations around the country have evolved to be very effective intermediaries during times of crisis like this because our ultimate purpose is really to serve those who want to give to community. So we serve as that intermediary for very generous donors that are out there to nonprofit organizations that are doing work on the ground. And so each year we work with over 1,000 nonprofits throughout the state of Hawaii. We move between $80 and $120 million a year to organizations statewide. So we're very familiar with the capacity, leadership, and governance of organizations throughout the state. We have a good history of that. Over the last 5 years, we've dealt with this is our fourth disaster, the Kauai floods, the Kilauea eruption, and then the pandemic, and now Maui fires. This, in no doubt, has been the most difficult and challenging one for us as an organization as well as a community. But as that evolution of interaction has occurred with government as a player, we've evolved to play a more critical role, especially in the short game of delivering essential services to those families in need through our nonprofit partners, and also playing a part in the long game of making sure that community voice is there and that we're supporting government to try and recover as quickly as possible. The Maui Strong Fund was established by a memorandum of understanding with Maui County so that we could pre-fund that fund in advancement of a disaster. And so we've gotten commitments from very generous donors. It was publicized in our press release. That's why we were able to raise $1 million within the first 24 hours. And we were able to get an additional couple of $1 million over the next few days, which then allowed us to get the first $1.8 million to 12 nonprofits. That was in many ways, almost predetermined because we understood where the needs were and what the capacity was of those organizations. A lot of trust, a lot of understanding, and we could wire resources to them quickly. Since then, it's gone viral, and we've been very fortunate to be one of many organizations that are trying to help the Maui Ohana.
One of the nice things I noticed on your website, the Hawaii Community Foundation.org website, is the transparency of where the money's going. I'm looking on it. I see Aloha Diaper got X amount of dollars. I mean, are you guys updating that? Because my concern was, hey, I see so many organizations out there. I don't even know if they're giving out money, are they putting in their pocket? Yeah. But I noticed the transparency. I love it.
It'll continue, Brian. I mean, it's our goal to be extremely transparent with every dollar that we spend. It will go up on our website. You'll start to see the evolution of that transparency. We follow a 4-phased approach to this work. And right now we're in really phase 2, which is the rapid response. There's a recovery element coming in phase 3 and trying to give some context, I think, to how these dollars are going out through the 4 phases is going to be something that you'll start to see. So people even understand, how these resources are going to be so critical, not just now, but, 6 months from now, a year from now, It's when when the light stops shining on Maui is when these resources are going to probably be the most valuable.
I have a question about your outreach program and, getting community voices heard. One of the questions that I constantly am asked is, what's the plan? And I've been saying, I think it's a little too early to really
Yeah.
be discussing that, but it's got to be an involvement with the Lahaina community. We get little snippets here and there, from the governor saying about eminent domain and
Right.
in the town, and from people who live there, that's not really what they want to hear, given the cultural and historical, ideology associated with eminent domain and taking land. So, is there any preliminary formations of community discussion groups on how Lahaina will evolve and change? I mean, what's the plan for getting people to have a voice in this, evolving discussion?
Yeah, I think as you said, Clint, I mean, what people are reacting to right now is the traditional recovery process that, can be scary. And especially as you're mobilizing large amounts of resources, big contractors, rolling in with thinking that big equipment's going to come rolling in. I think there's going to be a lot more thought to that, and there'll definitely be, a lot of community engagement, community conversation. You're going to start to see, specific leaders, trusted leaders surface across multiple sectors, not just Native Hawaiian community, and other, ethnic communities or sectors, but also in the land ownership arena. I mean, this has to be a very kako effort that includes, all sectors, so that people are comfortable about, what they're being an ambassador for. And if you look across the 4 phases that we're going to be presenting, you'll see an intentional role that we're going to try to play to facilitate that conversation in support of government and community. Be a translator to the extent we can, and those areas that we don't have the ability to get trusted partners to help us do that.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you take in the monies from the donations, shirt sales, and all that, how does an organization get picked? Do you have a list, or is that list evolving? How does
There's
that happen?
there's 2 primary ways in which it occurs. If you go on our site, you'll see a very simple application that someone can fill out. It's simple, and it allows us to get into a dialogue with those organizations. Most cases we're familiar with the organization, but in cases like this, sometimes a niche will pop up that needs to be served. We may not even be familiar with it. So we just try our best to validate that through our community contacts. And if it's validated, then usually we're moving forward. So that's one element of it. The other element of it comes through our communication with the Emergency Operating Center. They're working on the ground with Red Cross. They're getting good data from families. As you know, there are hundreds of individuals in Outrigger Kaanapali Resort, as well as Royal Lahaina, a combination of first responders, staff that's been affected, as well as community people. That has become actually I don't even know what the right term, probably a competitive advantage, because you have a consolidation of people being fairly, well served, with food and beverage facilities, shelter facilities, and you have Red Cross and FEMA having access to those bodies in a concentrated way. Where it gets difficult is what happened in the shelters, where, when they go from a large amount of people in the shelter, you can get information, you can serve, can build the database, that diluted very quickly into community. And that's a world's biggest village resource, but at the same time, it makes it difficult to communicate with those families, to provide them the services that are available.
I imagine right
yeah,
now, the lack of communication and down cell phone service, and
yeah,
people losing their primary contact to their cell phone during this whole process, it must just, exacerbate any issues with getting resources and talking to, the people.
yeah. So, some of the initial funding that went towards getting Starlink's resources out there, so that we could start to get more communication. There's a lot out there. that first 7 to 10 days, you're reacting, with very little information, and so there's going to be a higher degree of imperfection that you're normally comfortable with. Right now, we're rather than being in a 24-hour clip, we're going in more of a 72-hour clip. So it's giving us a little bit more time to do better due diligence, better coordination, more collaboration. So you're going to start to see, larger grants being made to intermediaries that are coordinating work around healthcare, coordinating work around shelter, rent relief, coordinated work around mental resources, those kinds of things. And so and we're building a cadence. And so I think you're going to start to see a lot more of that in the weeks going forward.
Yeah, I imagine mental health services are going to be a really important aspect of this.
Yeah.
I've had friends that, were crying every day for, a week until they were able to talk to a counselor and,
Yeah.
compartmentalize what they'd experienced.
Right.
I got a question. Like, when you initially heard the fire, the damage, what did Hawaii Community Foundation do right away? Like the first 24 hours. I'm just curious, how everything started, evolved.
Well, again, these protocols are in place already. We talk about them often. I was actually on the Big Island in Kohala dealing with the Kohala fires, trying to get back to Oahu. We were being made aware of the degree of impact that was going on Maui. Tuesday evening, I was given authority by my board to activate the Maui Strong Fund. Tuesday evening, I was in communication with Mayor Bisson, informing him that we were going to activate the fund, and I thought we could have $1 million available very quickly, and that we want to work with him on the distribution of that money. And by that afternoon, our team had the website up. We started to take applications that we were inviting in for the most part, which allowed us to get money out the door pretty quickly. And then by 2 to 3 days, we had the first 3 or 4 million out the door. And it was at that point that I think our communication team did a good job of getting out the Maui Strong Fund as a credible resource for people who wanted to help.
And it's really important, I think, that people realize how much more effective their dollar can be by giving it to an organization such as yourselves, because there's a lot more group buying power associated with it when you have a 501c3 reaching out to major manufacturers like the diaper, one.
Right.
So,
Right.
normally if somebody goes to the general store, they purchase it, they have it at markup. Compared to them not only getting wholesale costs of diapers, but, also cost oftentimes from the manufacturer themselves. Many times they only have to pay for transportation to get stuff out here because, the diaper company gets a write-off or whatnot. So, having put funds into a larger organization yourself will often multiply the effect of your dollar, as opposed to you taking the time to go out and buy those diapers and donate them.
Yeah, well, right now, just kind of add to that. I mean, there's no fee to our fund. Typically, there's a fee to that fund. In fact, we're a 80% operation statewide. It's a $14 million a year operation that moves $200 million in and out of this organ. So it's a pretty well-oiled, machine right now. That is 100%, nearly 100% of our operations is dedicated to Maui right now. And so, you have a pretty robust organization that is pooling these resources and trying to coordinate that work. I'm not sure there's anyone out there that has the ability to do that, and then to the best we can present that to the public in a way that there's confidence and awareness that their dollars are being spent well.
Yeah, unfortunately, people really only kind of hear of an organization when a disaster strikes. So, when they're trying to vet and figure this out, it's in the midst of chaos. So I'm glad we can have a show like this in order to get the information out to people and know that if they're donating, it's something they can do in confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and there's others, and we would ask people to give where they're comfortable, but deal with a proven organization, one that you can Google a 990 report and see that they've filed with the IRS,
Yeah.
in 2021. It's those kinds of things that you don't want to question. A lot of the GoFundMe accounts, it's hard to say. I don't want to say that's not a good way to give, but just make sure that they've done their due diligence in any giving that they're making right now.
Yeah, for me, it's them, giving it to individual family and friends that I know, in addition to
Yeah.
larger organizations. For my, it's always been, even since before the tragedy, my two favorite nonprofits have been Maui United Way and then Friends of the Children's Justice Center of Maui, two really effective, lean companies that do an immense amount of good here on island. So I've oftentimes been, steering funds in that direction, but of course, you guys are an excellent option and have a much larger fund to be pulling from too.
Yeah, one of the good things is that, the major organizations and those coordinating in government are aware of where our dollars are going. And so they can complement that with their activities, knowing capacities with those organizations. That's critical. When people go directly to organizations, there's no awareness that can be, formulated in their execution. So I mean that's another positive about supporting a pooled fund.
Now, one of the things I noticed on Hawaii Community Foundation.org's website is not only there's disaster relief or issues, but I noticed you also are proactive with scholarships, right? You
Yeah.
use scholarships too? I mean, it sounds like
Yeah.
you guys are diversified.
Yeah, well, second to Commitment Schools, we're the largest scholarship provider in the state. We have over 300 funds from very generous people who have left their resources to us and who are still alive today. But it represents only about 10% of our total grant making, but it's something that we're known for. Education is an extremely important sector for our donors, and scholarships are an easy vehicle for them to engage.
So
Now,
go ahead.
one last question for me is I see it, Maui Strong, real quickly, is you guys have shirts. They're in surf stores, different stores, right? How do I know the authenticity of that Maui Strong shirt?
Yeah, when I see Local Motion selling a Maui Strong or a Lahaina Strong shirt, what is the impact of buying one of those?
Yeah, I mean those are all being done by our third party partners. They're contacting us. We're giving them the QR code. We're validating that they're a qualified partner, and then they move forward. And that's how that is happening. And that's happening around the world, quite frankly. More than 45 countries have made contributions to the Maui Strong Fund. Over 180,000 single contributions have happened. A lot of them, majority online. I mean, our platform has evolved in the last 2 weeks from, a 2 or 3 platform contribution to one that I think is now 12 platforms that people can give through. And so we've had to pivot and we've had to adjust to meet the capacity of interest to support Maui families.
We have about 5 minutes remaining in the show, and I wanted to kind of have you focus more on not just the now and where those funds are going, but how do you see your involvement evolving over the next several years as we transition from the emergency response into the recovery phase?
We want to be everywhere where others can't be, and we don't want to play a bigger role than we need to. I mean, we want to be where we need to be, and that's going to evolve over time. We understand the phases of recovery that will occur. Right now, we're a niche funder in areas where government is having a difficult time getting resources to. Going forward, it's going to pivot towards, the midterm relief, and we're going to be right there. We're seeing that need to pool funds, large amounts of funds for rent relief and that type of thing. And then going forward, it's going to be about making sure that there's an equitable voice across all sectors in what happens to Lahaina, starting with, those constituents that are there, and making sure that, and you know, the leadership there, Mayor Bisson and his team, they're concerned about the same thing. They're talking about the same thing. And so I think we just got to make sure we're on the same sheet of music going forward.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the one, like I said, number one question that people have is they've kind of
Yeah.
have this underlying concern that the plans have already been made and that, you know, there's a direction that they want to go that they won't be necessarily involved in. Not necessarily not agree with, but, you know, it's important that their voice is a part of this recovery process, and everybody want to ensure that makes that happen. So, you know, there's no scheduled community meeting date or anything like that, and I don't really think that there should be, considering we're right now in the midst of just figuring out what's going on. So it is hard though, because there's so many people in a variety of situations, some of which are, you know, settled with family, others that are, you know, in hotels, some that are still transitioning between family and friends in the shelter, some without communication. So I understand that now is not the time, but is there any, you know, plan to make plans at some point? Like,
You
is
know, I
there?
think what I would encourage you and your listeners to take a look at is we have an initiative called House Maui. It was started 3 years ago. You can go to the website, housemaui.org, and it lays out under the resources icon the 3 regional plans that we're working under. It evaluates at a high level um, roads, water, sewer, and public facility needs that should be aligned with affordable housing, really trying to help get government to take back the responsibility of offsite infrastructure and public facilities, as opposed to what has occurred, which is being pushed that over to the private sector, which creates a lot of uncertainty and a kind of a chop suey approach towards community development. And so, you know, I think that's going to be a very valuable tool for West Maui as a starting point. You know, we started 3 years ago. We started in Central Maui. We're very effective in working with state and county leadership as well as federal leadership to bring a lot of financial resources to Maui County. I think close to $100 million. You know, over the first 2 years, we were able to secure $25 million raise grant for Waiale extension, which opens up, you know, a lot of affordable units, renegotiated about 300 affordable units into that developer agreement. We went into South Maui, had a really good session with Representative Yamashita and Representative Hashimoto in that area. So I mean, South Maui's got quite a bit of resources coming there. And we were intending to go into West Maui. And we didn't even start the community conversation of where the priority projects were going to be there. But you'll see that a regional plan is there that takes a cursory view of what the status of those infrastructure improvements are. And that's going to have to be reviewed and rethought and used as a tool going forward.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming and joining us today. This has been really illuminating, and it definitely feels a lot more secure putting money towards your organization, because I have had dozens upon dozens of people reach out to me, you know, making sure you guys are legitimate and this is a proper place to be putting those funds. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Again, can you tell us about your organization and your name?
Again, my name is Micah Kane. I'm the CEO of Hawaii Community Foundation. Please go to our website, hawaiicommunityfoundation.org. You can press the Maui Strong icon, and really appreciate this opportunity, Byron and Clint. Thank you.
What's nice is just, you know, how I found it. I just searched Maui Strong on there. It's pretty cool because they have a link that you can share on Facebook. You know, share it to the world. I'm gonna go out.
Yeah.
I would encourage people to do that, you know, and also buy a shirt. Me and my wife, I talked to High Tech. I believe they have some. I know Kim Ball. So I'm going to reach out and grab some of those. Absolutely. And let's show support and let's take care of our country. I mean, our county, excuse me.
Thank you, Byron.
Hey, the country of Maui. What are you talking about? Hawaii is a country. All right. Aloha again. This is Clint Hansen with Maui Real Estate Radio. You can listen to this and all shows at mauirealestateradio.com. Aloha.